What's the most sexual weird thing a coworker has slyly mentioned to you? A coworker left a copy of Cosmo on her desk open to one of those ridiculous sex quizzes with all of her answers circled. Now I know that she won't swallow, but she loves anal. Well, ain't that kinda backwards? In all seriousness, my little company's one-person HR department just asked me if I was willing to go watch her friend jerk off in his office, on a recorded line. Okay, that wasn't slyly, but it was freaking odd. How was it? The girl in the mail room at a job I once had slipped and fell on her butt moving some boxes around while I was talking to her. She laughed and said that there were much better ways to end up with a sore butt while giving me that look. A woman used to work in the cubicle next to mine, greatly overshared information. She had been married for almost 20 years, but her husband mostly stayed in the shed. There was a cot there and equipment for his hobbies. He'd come into the house to eat while she was away. The only time he entered the house when she was home was when he wanted to save sex. He would sometimes call her at work to give her a heads up that tonight was going to be one of those nights. Weird people, but they seemed very happy with the arrangement. When you hate each other but the sex is on point. I had a coworker ask how I'd feel about wearing her panties on shift. Apparently she liked the idea of guys wearing her underwear. If they were boy shorts maybe, but a thong would cut me in two. A coworker had just told some of us in the office that she was pregnant. I jokingly said, "Wow, how did that happen?" She proceeded to describe in graphic detail exactly how it happened. A girl I worked with came down to see me working in the basement. She made casual conversation and mentioned that what really turned her on was when a man slowly looked her up and down. Of course, trying not to do that when it's been suggested to you is very difficult, but I looked her firmly in the eye, smiled, and then turned my head away. Look her up and down as rapidly as you can over and over again, preferably inducing dizziness and nausea. I work a job where at any one time you'll only ever have 2 people maximum in shop. So one day it's very slow. A female co-worker who is supposed to be training me and is old enough to be my mother, and I are alone in the shop. She leant over to me and from nowhere says, "I had sex last night." Shame he was 29. I prefer younger guys really. Your sort of age is perfect, and laughed as if she were winding me up. I wouldn't have minded too much, except this was my first day on the job. I was training a new female employee on our help desk. She has been sitting with me for almost 2 weeks now, and we are talking about random stuff, and she just randomly said that she hasn't gotten laid in a few months and her vibrator batteries are about to go out again. Later she also mentions that she enjoys anal sex more than regular sex. I think she's trying to give you some hints. Wasn't sly at all, but this woman who was my manager for about a month was very open about her relationships and sex life. I come out of the back to the sales floor one day and she's talking to my other co-workers about how her boyfriend likes her to stick her fingers in his butthole. That's fine and all, but I later found out that conversation topic was unprompted and she just started telling the staff this stuff out of the blue. Management material right there. My supervisor at my first job gave me a to-do list and at the end she wrote "ME" surrounded by little hearts. Unfortunately she was a rimhead with a speech impediment. Did not smash. I was at a team building event at a bar, and for some reason a group of us were talking about trains and taking train trips. One chick just piped up with, "I let a guy frick me on a train once." What was the general response? So she tells us this story about falling asleep on a passenger train in Europe somewhere, and woke up to the guy sitting next to her putting his hand up her skirt, and an elderly woman waking her up to warn her about the guy. She said she made eye contact with the old woman, waved her off, then pretended to be asleep while the guy pulled up her skirt, fingered her, and eventually fricked her. It was difficult to work with her without thinking about that anecdote. Dang, she just made that old lady watch it go down. I was talking to a very attractive co-worker of mine and I yawned and mentioned how great it would be to have nap time again as an adult. She goes, "I used to hate nap time and being spanked as a kid. Who knew as an adult they'd be 2 of my favorite things? All I could think was, you cheeky lady you." When I was young and in shape I used to hit the gym a lot. A girl who worked out there ended up getting a summer job at the same place as me. One day we are sitting there on break. Everything is casual. Then suddenly she says, You know that guy you work out with all the time? Yeah, that's my buddy John. Why? Think you and him might like to tag team me sometime? I could not tell if she was serious or what, but I never brought it up again. It was pretty out of left field. Gotta admire her balls for asking though. At a job I worked when I was 16, the manager there died all of a sudden, and they replaced him with the assistant manager at the time. I'll call him Tim. Tim was a pervert. Every day was new adventures of things he did and said. One day he announced that tomorrow will be opposite sex underwear day. The next day, he asks all of us to show him if we participated in opposite sex underwear day. Everyone just said back, Tim, you are crazy. Then he dropped his pants to reveal that he was wearing white lace women's panties. I'm applying for a job now. I hope I have Tim. Kind of a dweeb in our group of co-workers was overheard bragging about how he and his girlfriend have a 12:1 cm ratio. Are we talking volume, frequency, times in one encounter? Who's the 12? Who's the 1? No inquiry was made. If he's the one bragging, he's the 12. I guarantee it. Buddy of mine talking about some celebrity he was in love with, and he told me as a joke that he wanted to suck on her prostate. Back when I was single, my co-worker used to always lament to me how she wishes that her marriage was open as she felt it was more natural. We work later than everyone else in the company, so there's about an hour every afternoon when we're the only 2 people in the building. I noticed that all of this talk stopped once I got a girlfriend, so I'm guessing it was specifically directed towards me. Now she's divorced from her husband, but I still have a girlfriend. Probably for the best. I'm told that workplace flings are an awful idea anyway. That's not true at all. Workplace flings can be a-okay if you can keep it professional when it counts. The new secretary at work once gave me a black rubber frog, showed me the corner of her black rubber bra and told me that her undergarments were keeping all of her juices in. I work in a tire shop. Was bolting together a wheel for an airplane tire when we realized a nut was missing from one of the bolts. I say, well, we lost a nut, and he whispers, crap, I busted one last night. I'm gonna give you a BJ in the changing room after staff training. Definitely sexual. Not that sly, but hey, at least she was true to her word. More like shaft training. Her. Hey, do you lick booty? Me. Do what? Her. I want my booty licked. Me. Whatever that is. I'm engaged. Next time you see her, tell her you pepperoni licks booty. Me. Receptionist. Him. IT guy. We were loading an old copier into the back of a truck and it slid in perfectly, so I said, oh golden, and without a pause he goes like a shower and I was like and he legit ran away. That was fun. Imagining him just booking it without saying another word made me laugh. Was working at Chipotle in college and one of my co-workers and I were working the line. It was a slow night and somehow we got to talking about rim jobs. I told him I didn't know how I'd feel about some chick licking my butthole. He just smiled and then told me he was with a girl once who was blowing him and started to give him a rim job. He followed by finishing with, I was really caught off guard, but I wouldn't say no if it happened again. Been caught off guard once. It was amazing. No woman has ever done it since. I miss it. The wife just looks at me like I killed a kitten if I ask her to. I had a really skeevy manager that would make a point to stop by every woman's office at some point during the day just to chat. He was really good at walking the line between friendly and inappropriate. I think his good old southern boy attitude helped him get away with it. Imagine the less handsome, middle management version of Matthew McConaughey. Anyway, he found out I was a lesbian. And the next time he stopped by, he started a random conversation about foods that neither of us liked. I thought it was a strange topic. Then right before he left, he winked and said, you know, Katie Ames, you really don't know you don't like something till you try it twice. Know what I'm saying? The only thing missing was alright, alright, alright. A couple of years later, he ended up retiring early. I heard through the grapevine that something happened that ended up going to HR. I can only imagine. At my last job, one of the managers would dress rather provocatively and flaunt her assets around IT to get faster service. I have it on good authority that it worked sometimes, as I was IT. If you show an ankle to IT, you get better service. I was giving a presentation on restriction orifices. Whenever I mentioned choke flow and the orifice assertion, MILF manager raised her eyebrows and smirked at me. I was too much of a P to pursue this. Also, one of my older co-workers who was in his 50s was banging our sassy director, and they would talk to each other in weird codes like, "You should come on over and make some pumpkin pie tonight." Okay, I cannot believe how amazing the phrases restriction orifices and choke flow are. I am really immature. Made a sex joke, just like I had been doing for weeks and getting turned down. It was good natured, meant for laughs. She looks me in the eye and says, "You ever gonna deliver or just make jokes?" I asked her to dinner a week or so later. She said yes. The rest is history. The rest is history. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I used to work at a place where the HR lady would stare at my crotch all the time. If I'm wearing khakis or something, yeah, it's visible, but it was like, you run the HR department. You're supposed to be the one disciplining people for stuff like this. I didn't mind, I just thought it was kinda ironic. TLDR. HR lady used to stare at my cork. Was in the same situation a few years back. Good looking woman. If "don't crap where you eat" ever replies, man, it's there. Don't talk to HR, let alone frick HR. She told me about the special folder her gynecologist had for her because she was a sex addict. She was also morbidly obese and had a 4-year-old kid. Probably a sex addict on chronic withdrawal. I had a co-worker come up to me every day and say, "Did you know me and my girlfriend have an open relationship? Yeah, we can have sex with whoever we want. So do you want to come over tonight?" I was very happy when he got fired. I wish it was more sly, but working retail with mostly males and being one of the few females I got way too many dong pics, hookup offers, ex in my late teens and early 20s. I hooked up with a few of my co-workers at the time. I used to have a co-worker who was in her 30s and trying to get pregnant. We were talking one day and she had a light bulb moment. She looked at me and said, "He only wants to put it in my butt. Maybe that's why I can't get pregnant." She definitely doesn't need to be raising a child. I had a co-worker mention that he liked to watch his wife get the D from behind by someone he wasn't related to. I am putting quotes around wasn't because my co-worker's brother and wife were very close and it always seemed inappropriate. So I think he was cucked by his own wife and brother. There was nothing sly about this, but my bilingual co-worker was trying to tell me I was really easy to frick with, didn't pull the right words, and instead told me I was really fuckable. Thank you, Freud. Had a field tech under me text me to ask for the next day off. He replies, "Great. Thanks. I already made a girl pee on me while she was riding me. It was a warm shower and sexy hot. She was happy too and claims it was her first time." A guy I worked with told me about the time a stripper was grinding on his dong, and she was shocked and grossed out that he came all over her back. One of many tales from Uncle Peter. Dishwasher at my serving job said, "My dong is so hard right now. Will you touch it?" Sexual harassment is common in the food service industry, I've found. New guy at work was out in the field training with me. We had only briefly spoken on the phone a couple times. Out in the field, after our second business visit, we are driving to go grab some lunch. After only a few seconds of silence, he stated, "Sorry if I'm a bit slow in keeping up with you today. My BF and I got wild last night and he rode me like a pony and it hurts to walk." I didn't really know what to say. My shock wasn't from him being gay or anything. The shock came from just meeting this guy in person just 4 hours ago and he tells me this. Reaction would have been the same if I was training a female that said the same thing. It was just a weird thing to say. He's still with our company and we are good friends at this point. Sometimes we joke about the first day we met. He clearly does not know how to ride horses. It was 3 AM in the preload area of UPS and a temp chick, fugly, overheard one co-worker offer another a candy bar. She said so very slyly, "I'll suck your dong for that candy bar," to which the receiver of said candy ate it while not breaking eye contact. The next day a different co-worker texted her, asking if she'd like to frick before work that next morning, to which she slyly responded, "How'd you like to speak to HR? Very odd people work at 3 AM. I really don't think she's as sly as she thinks she is. I had a weird end of last year and start of this year. I had 3 co-workers asking me out on a date. I refused all of them, but one of the women decided to continue trying. So she actually showed up at my office section, which was in a different building to hers, sat on the corner of my table and started talking about all kinds of things. I was a little surprised by her visit, but was actually enjoying talking to her until she started circling back to how she had broken up with her boyfriend before and was now going around collecting stickers. Local supermarket gave out stickers to get pans and pots for free, so that she'd have more stuff to her new apartment. I knew it was coming. I was waiting for her to say it, and then she did. "If you want to come check out my new apartment, you're free to come." I said that I'd be happy to come see her apartment at some point in the future and that perhaps she could hold a housewarming party, so that I wouldn't have to go alone. We exchanged a few words after that before she vanished behind the corner. That same December evening, my phone pings and I get 3 pictures from her on WhatsApp. One with her on the bed topless with a mini skirt on, and 2 of her bending over towards the phone with her completely naked. Needless to say, that was pretty much the female equivalent to unsolicited dong pics. So I sent her a pretty angry text message. She got angry at me for getting angry at her. After that I just told her it would be better if we didn't talk. She came back apologizing the week after. We're in good terms now. That's totally egregious, and the people who act like you should be happy to be aggressively pursued and even sent unsolicited pics just because they were from a girl are idiots. Women should be able to take a hint just as much as men. This will likely seem more tame than many of the offerings in this thread, but it stands out to me as being one of the most bizarre non-sequiturs that I've ever had uttered in my direction. I was attending what was being referred to as a management training session, but which was, at least as far as I could tell, really just an opportunity for people to pretend that they had something to contribute. There were about 24 of us packed into a conference room, and the conversation consisted mainly of folks agreeing with one another and saying things like a focus on efficient scheduling will reduce our expenditures. The only actual training that was offered came in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. The content. It was a monumentally dull affair, to say the least. Anyway, as I was silently wishing that the ceiling would cave in, the fellow next to me started chuckling. It was quiet enough to be almost inaudible, but the sound of genuine mirth stood out like a beacon in that otherwise soul-crushing environment. I glanced over at the man, hoping to be let in on the joke, and he responded to my unvoiced inquiry with a grin. "My sister," the guy whispered, "has a pet chicken." More giggling followed, and I struggled to stifle laughter of my own. To this day, I don't know for sure if I was trying to be polite or if my brain had just broken. But either way, it was the most fascinating fact that I learned that day. TLDR. A coworker told me about his sister's dong. I looked at the username after reading, and thought, of course it's you, Ramses the pigeon. I was working at a nice department store while I was in college. There was this very sexy girl I went to school with who worked there. One of those girls who just exude sex. Nearly everybody who worked there was about that age. She and her nearly as sexy friend go around tracing outlines of all the guys' hands on paper. They said they wanted to see who had the biggest so they'd know who had the biggest dong. I was the tallest and I had the longest hand, so they assumed mine was biggest. These other 2 guys objected and said theirs was the biggest. They were certain. So the girls proposed we all gather in the stock room and pull them out and compare. I was thinking this was getting out of hand, but I figured frick it. So nearly every person our age, guys and girls, gathered in this stock room. A supervisor who knew what was going on but didn't give a crap later told us the store looked deserted when we were in there. So about 6 or 7 guys lined up to whip them out. But no one wanted to go first. Because of the hand thing, the girl who instigated all this thought mine would be the biggest, so she unzipped my pants and pulled it out. Everybody made joyful noises of one kind or another. I was just glad they didn't laugh. This was before the internet and I actually had no idea if mine was big or even average. Then the other guys did, and I was the biggest, but not by a whole lot. Until the ugly, hairy, chubby guy with the weird personality that no girls ever flirted with stepped up and pulled his out. It was enormous. The room was dead silent. The girl who pulled my dong out was still holding it but was staring at his with her mouth hanging open. Somebody said kinda quiet, "Holy crap." Then we all put ours away. It was a topic of regular conversation the rest of the time I worked there. Where the frick did you work? I was training a new girl at my old job and she got to telling me about how she was having trouble finding someone to go to her homecoming with. A couple days later we were working together again and she said that she would ask me to go with her if I didn't have a girlfriend, and continued by saying that she was trying to get fricked on homecoming night. I hope you were 40 at the time. I got married out of state this past June. I also had my bachelor party a couple days before the big day. When I got back to the office and told one of my much older female co-workers how much fun the bachelor party was, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "If I were there, you would have never got married." One of my firm's partners was trying to extend an easel leg and couldn't quite get it unscrewed. He turned to my bachelor co-worker and handed it to him and said, "Hey, you're single, right? You probably have a better grip." After the presentation I was taking them down and I couldn't unscrew the legs. My co-worker took the easel from me and said, "I'll get that. I have a better grip than you cause you have a girlfriend." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.